This week's thought is, does truth matter? This is an issue that is near and dear to my heart. So I have to tell you, I am worried about the truth in our society because it seems like many people today just don't really care about truth. You hear increasing rejection of science as the basis for making decisions. Science doesn't have all the answers. You see people that are willing to accept and even propagate falsehoods as long as they support that person's position. What matters is my position. What doesn't matter is what's actually true. Or people who believe that the truth is something you can negotiate. You say this is the truth, I say this is, we ought to at least be able to compromise in the middle. No, truth does not admit compromise. Truth either is or isn't. So personally, I care really, really deeply about the truth. I care about discovering it. How do we identify truths? Accepting the truth, even when it's not what I would necessarily like. And then harnessing the truth to do things that hopefully are good for the world. That's one of the reasons I came back to academia from industry. When I was doing startups, I noticed there's a tremendous amount of pressure to make your company look better than it really is, to somehow massage the truth slightly to make your company look better. And in my companies, we tried to be careful about that. We had to do some marketing, but at least inside the company, it was always tried to have a culture of truth. We want to know what's really going on, even if it's bad. But the great thing about academia is you do a research project, it doesn't work out. You say, oops, all right, that idea didn't work, on to the next. When you're in a company and your product isn't doing very well, kind of hard to say, oops, and shut down the company. So you can struggle on, you try and make yourself look better than you are. But in any case, whatever your goals are, it's really hard to achieve your goals if you're basing decisions on things that aren't true. Hard to get anywhere interesting that way. And also, the truth will eventually come out. It absolutely will. One of my favorite sayings is, truth is like a superfluid. It's hard to contain. If you know physics, when you put superfluid in the bowl, it'll just kind of flow up over the sides of the bowl. Very hard to contain it. Truth is that way also. A not so long ago example is Theranos, a company founded by, sadly, an ex-Stanford student whose product didn't work for doing blood analysis. And they just sort of lied and obfuscated and went on and on and on. But they eventually got found out, and of course the CEO is now spending time in jail. So the question is, how much does truth matter to you? Ask yourself that question. Does it really matter to you? And what will you do, you personally, to help make truth win? And so if it does matter to you, and you want to make it win, I think there's 3 steps involved. The first step is personal responsibility. You personally need to care about the truth. Now, some people would say, it's a free country, I can think whatever I want. Well, respectfully, I disagree with that. I think in a democracy, every person in a democracy, I think, has a responsibility to align their beliefs and their decisions with the truth, to the best of their ability. Some people are more able than others, but you have a responsibility to try and align what you do with the truth. Otherwise, you're going to put democracy at risk. And to do that, I think you have to be willing to accept a fair amount of personal discomfort. Would you ask yourself, would you consciously seek out a truth that actually conflicted with some important belief you held? Or would that just be too painful, just don't think about that? And if you do seek out the truth and it conflicts, what will you do? Will you actually change your beliefs? Or will you then just deny the truth, negotiate, I have an alternate truth over here, and what will you do? So the first step, I think, is personal responsibility. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It can be really uncomfortable when something comes up that turns out to be true but doesn't really match what you wanted. Second thing, step 2, is as a society, we somehow need to find a way to prevent the spread of falsehoods. We just have to do that. When the internet was first invented, you weren't around then, but I was around. It was a really heady time. We thought, the internet is this amazing thing that's going to bring everybody in the world together. It's going to be this beautiful thing where all of the best ideas from all of the world will come together and the best ideas will come out, and it's going to make society so much a better place. And it helped a little bit with that, but what it helped a lot more with was spreading disinformation. It turned out the people who wanted to lie got a lot more out of the internet than the people who wanted to tell the truth. That has been so, so sad to see over the last 30 years. Just really, really frustrating. So what do we do about it when we have this vehicle that makes it so easy for people to spread lies? Do we impose some kind of censorship? There are people, more and more people starting to talk about we have to somehow do that. Personally, I have to tell you, that makes me really, really uncomfortable. I hate the idea of that, both from kind of a moral standpoint, but also your censors then become a single point of failure. And so the bad actors will attack the censors and try and take over the censorship organization. And if they do that, then we are really screwed when that happens. So censorship is very, very risky. I'm not sure, I don't yet know how to do that in a way that I would consider safe. The third step, although I think, is education. We need to use our school system to teach students how to identify things that probably are and probably aren't true. And we need to teach kids a responsibility to accept the truth and to value the truth, to consider that something really important. And I think we need to do that at a really early age. I think sort of second, third grade, that's about the right level. We should be starting to teach our kids in the school. That should be part of social studies. Every year there should be a unit on the truth. And if we can do that, maybe we can create sort of a social respect, increase social respect for the truth enough that we don't have to do censorship. I really don't like that alternative. So these are just ideas. I don't know what the long-term solution is, but I really believe we have to do something. And I think for your generation, I think one of the most important generational challenges you need to face is how to find a way that truth wins. My generation, we failed. Sorry, we built the internet, and that allowed bad things to happen. You have to fix this somehow. And finally, just to close, I think that truth and freedom are fundamentally linked. I think if we stop respecting truth, we put freedom at risk. The first thing people who want to take your freedom away will do is try and cut off the truth from getting to you. So that's my thought for the weekend. Does truth matter? Have a great weekend, and see you Monday.